talking about art.
Yes,
like
your art.
Yeah, it's. I brought some art.
This is Madeleine Tuttle.
Yes, thank you. And I enjoy the place here. It's not our first time, so I enjoy it double.
Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you.
It's great to have you.
Okay, great. Good morning. How you doing?
That was absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much. Normally, this isn't going to happen again, because normally after you've been here, you've spoken, and your family already, but I don't introduce you again. But because it's been a while, we thought that I would introduce you. Dr. Will Tuttle. When was the last time you were here? 2013?
It was about 4 years ago.
Yeah. I remember, I was in a fog. I was just coming out of ministerial school. So I was in a little bit of a fog. So I'm still in a fog, just a different kind of thing. So just let me read you a little bit of Dr. Tuttle's bio. Dr. Tuttle is a composer, a pianist, obviously, an educator, and author of the best-selling book, The World Peace Diet. Devoted to providing uplifting and healing original music, and to helping people awaken their inner wisdom and genius. I think you're in the right place. He's presented lectures, concerts, and workshops throughout North America and worldwide. He has a PhD in education from Berkeley, focusing on educating intuition. He's taught college courses in philosophy, humanities, mythology, creativity, and comparative religion. A Zen priest and Dharma master in the Korean Zen tradition. Is currently conducting a music, art, and education ministry with his wife, Madeleine, a visionary artist from Switzerland. He's traveled and has provided lectures, concerts, and workshops, inspiring art prints, cards, and books, as well as CDs of original piano music. And I bet we can buy some right in the hallway right there, I'm thinking, after service. So if you would, please welcome Dr. Will Tuttle.
Thank you again, all of you, for creating the space of love that we have here this morning. And it's great to be back after a few years away. Madeleine and I have been enjoying many adventures in the meantime, and I'd like to share a few of those with you. As you know, the title of the talk this morning is Awakening Your Inner Genius. And the basic idea underlying this whole idea of awakening our inner genius is that our genius is already within. And in many ways, we live in a society where our natural capacities of creativity and intelligence and awareness and empathy are repressed. And it's only through creating communities like this one of healing and sanity, kindness and love, where we connect with the ancient wisdom traditions that are based on understanding the fundamental teachings of our true nature, that we can awaken out of a lot of the repression that goes on in our society. So I want to thank all of you, because I know if you found your way somehow through this door here and you're in this room, you're already questioning a lot of the official narrative in our society, which is so important, and creating a new one. And so Madeleine and I, as we've been traveling, we've been very fortunate for the last, I'd say, we're actually having our 25th wedding anniversary in just very soon, in a couple of weeks. So. Madeleine's the artist of this painting and many more. We met in Switzerland many years ago, and we've been traveling to New Thought churches now for 25 years. And it's really an honor to be part of a movement that I think is based on radical inclusion. You know, this idea of not only that we include all human beings and all living beings within the sphere of our kindness and concern, but we're also including all of the teachings of wisdom from the different traditions as they bless us. And for me, as we heard earlier, I used to teach college courses in comparative religion. I've always been fascinated by the wisdom traditions of not only the monotheistic traditions like the Sufi tradition, Christian and Kabbalistic tradition, but also the traditions from China and India, And I think there's enormous wisdom available from these traditions. And I think the underlying idea, though, is that it's really within us. When we learn to quiet our minds and to listen internally, and we can connect with what they were pointing at. There's an old Zen saying that we shouldn't be looking at the finger which is pointing at the moon. We should look at the moon that the finger is pointing at. And these teachings in many ways are like fingers pointing at a moon. And the moon is within us. It's the moon of awakening, spiritual awakening, where we connect with our inner genius, the inner creative power and joy and freedom and liberation, and connect really with what I feel is within all of us, which is a bubbling spring of joy. A joy that doesn't need anything in the outer world to happen. It's just our true nature spontaneously expressing a sense of gratitude that we have another day to celebrate our lives on this beautiful planet. And the sense, I think, also that what we are is eternal. We're not a thing, an object. This is part of the official narrative in our society, is that what we are as human beings is that we're an object. We were born and we will die. We're a thing. We have a name and we have a form. And because we're just an object that was born and will die, then we're vulnerable. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to protect ourselves. We have to compete with others to get what we want. And this whole thing, in the Buddhist tradition, this is referred to as samsara. Samsara is the word that means illusion or delusion. It's based on the fundamental delusion is the delusion of being a fundamentally separate self, separate from other expressions of life and from the source of all life. And that delusion is injected into us without our permission by massively powerful institutions and organizations in this world, which rely on people being consumers, basically being consumers, identifying ourselves as objects that we need to buy things to be happy. If we just buy the things in the Walmart ad, then we'll be happy. So this basic idea that we have joy within us that doesn't need to buy anything or keep anything away. We don't have to be in a constant struggle, which is really what this word samsara leads to. It's a basic sense of endless struggle. It's a struggle that we cannot end with the ego or with this sense of being a fundamentally separate self. So the whole idea is to quiet our mind and listen, and we can get a glimpse perhaps of the deeper truth that what we are is what makes this possible, this expression possible, this self. There's a metaphor in the Buddhist tradition of a footprint. When we go to the beach or we go out in the desert, right, we see some footprints in the sand. We don't go up to the footprint in the sand and say, well, good morning, George. How are you doing this morning? You're looking a little bit shallow here. Let me help you out a little bit. We know that footprint is not the being who made the footprint, right? That's just, in a sense, an effect. Right now, this is a footprint waving. You cannot see the being. You can't see me, right? I cannot see you just looking at this footprint. And so the whole idea with healing is to stop identifying with the footprint. We're taught to do that. We're taught to identify with this three-dimensional expression, but to identify and connect with the source of that, which is eternal, indivisible, and of the nature of love and awareness and creativity and joy and abundance and compassion and kindness, tenderness and mercy, and utter liberation. And when we get a glimpse of that in ourselves, by quieting the internal dialogue that's continually reinforcing this story that I'm a separate self, and we get a sense of that in ourselves, then we can see it in others. And we look beyond the outer form of perhaps they have some challenge and so forth. We see the life that is eternal. We become healers automatically without trying to heal because we see the truth. And we become healers of situations and become healers that are so desperately needed on our planet today, because there are, I think we all can feel it, powerful forces that would like to keep us in delusion, but there's far more powerful force, which is the truth that we are, an infinitely more powerful force. And this is our true nature, and it's growing every day. There's an awakening of humanity right now on this planet. We can feel it. And we, as Madeleine and I have been traveling, we have been really blessed. As we heard, the World Peace Diet is a number one Amazon bestseller back in 2010, and it's now been translated into 16 languages. And there's a lot more coming, actually. And so we're traveling all over the world. We just got back recently from China and India, Korea, Vietnam, Singapore, and many Eastern, other nations in the Pacific, as well as Eastern Europe and Africa, North and South America, doing, everywhere. And we can see this beautiful unfoldment happening. You wouldn't know about it if you just read the newspapers or watch television, which focuses on the negativity for the most part. But there's a beautiful, positive, loving awakening that is happening in our relationships with each other, with nature, with animals, with the beautiful planet. How many of you have noticed by now that the Earth is beautiful? Anybody notice that yet? Okay. This Earth is so beautiful, and people, that's awakening within us an awareness of the importance of protecting this beautiful planet and the beautiful animals, the other expressions of life, and the children that are coming in, and protecting and questioning the official narrative, and realizing that we're all planting seeds all the time, with our thoughts, and with our words, and with our actions, and to do the best we can to plant seeds that come from our true nature of interconnectedness, the interconnectedness of all life, that there's one life living here. And I remember recently we were in China, and it was interesting. We were giving lectures on the World Peace Diet to these groups in China, and they're so loving. And, we get so much propaganda, but everywhere we went, there was always at least 300 or 400 or 500, 600 people in a beautiful hall. They always had a grand piano on the stage. They just worked together magnificently to make everything happen for us and treated us so incredibly well. And I remember at one point we did, every day we were in we would do 1 or 2 events in a different city and traveling and very busy. And as we were giving these different lectures, I was speaking and playing the piano, and Madeleine was also showing her paintings. And we were talking about the importance of meditation and of compassion for animals and for each other. And China's an ancient culture with a very deep Buddhist, Taoist, and Confucian heritage, and these ideas resonate at a very deep level, and the people love these ideas. And so it was interesting. After a few days, though, they said, "Okay, we love what you're saying, but we want to hear about your relationship, you and Madeleine, because we've never seen, we don't see such a loving relationships. Like, what's your secret? Tell us your secret to a loving relationship." So we get all right, so we get up on the stage, and there's like 500 people out there, and we just started having a kind of a casual dialogue with each other about some of the secrets to having a loving, joy-filled relationship. And it just came as Madeleine was talking. She said, "I remember that time when we first got together, because it was a little rocky in the beginning. I remember I had met Madeleine in Switzerland, and then she had come over to California, where I was living in a 1971 Volkswagen bus, traveling around to Unity and religious science churches, and they were religious science back then, playing the piano and giving talks. And so I gave her one of the drawers in the Volkswagen bus, and she for her clothes, and we moved in. And then eventually we found a little house, and we got married, and we started making little babies, which are albums, or our babies. Started making albums of CD music, and I said, "I need someone to do the cover." She had come over from Switzerland to help me make a cover of my first CD, and she had heard me play in Switzerland. But anyway, so we had moved in together in this little house way out on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere in Northern California, and we had a grand piano, a Yamaha, nice piano we'd gotten, and we were working on albums, but there was these subconscious assumptions of a European woman and an American man sometimes didn't line up, and like a role plays and whatever. So so she mentioned that. Remember that time, we were having a little trouble, and then you gave me a note, and I suddenly remember in the shape of an airplane, and I said, "Oh yeah, I remember that." And because we were saying how it's important to have a mission together. And to make our meals together, and to meditate together, and so forth, and also to always try never to go to bed at night angry with each other. To always try to come to an agreement and harmony with each other. And so I told the people in China, I remember she had said something that really upset me so much, and I was sitting there, and it was getting late in the evening, and I couldn't talk to her, and then finally. I thought, well, I can write her a note, but I couldn't even bring myself to go over and give it to her. So I wrote her a little note, kind of a little reaching out note, and then I made it into an airplane, and I just threw it over, And she was sitting at her desk over there, and this airplane landed, and she opened it and smiled, thankfully, and so we got over it and everything, and we kind of didn't think about it too much anymore, but but she brought that up, and we mentioned that, you know, in the thing, and we kind of went on. And then we went to the next evening, we took the train to the next city, and we went to the hall before the whole event was going to start. It was 500 chairs again, all out there. And we noticed, Madeleine, she pointed it out to me, that, you know, the way they do it in China, they have all these seats, and next to every seat they have a table, because during the thing they serve tea. So on every table, they had put a folded paper airplane. 500 of them, you know. I couldn't believe it. They had told the people in the next city this story somehow. So then we started, you know, the evening went on, and I started speaking and playing and so forth, and Mel and I had this idea that we would encourage the people to just write a little love note on a paper airplane that was sitting next to them and just, you know, throw it to somebody. And so all pandemonium broke loose after that. 500 people are throwing these paper airplanes, and of course you throw it that way and it goes that way. And so people are getting hit by these paper airplanes and picking them up and reading them and laughing. And it was that went on. And then at the very end they had this sort of grand finale where this whole Chinese chorus came out and sang some kind of song in Chinese to everybody, but then I didn't know they had a whole bag full of paper airplanes that they started throwing, you know. Everybody was throwing, so it was this big sort of grand finale of the fireworks, of paper airplane fireworks. And, but it was so touching, I almost had tears, because I remember, you know, this was literally 20 years later, on the other side of the world, you know, that there I was in that little house, and out on a dirt road, feeling kind of low, thought, all right, I made a little paper airplane and I threw it. I planted a seed. There was a little bit of something. And that seed took 20 years for the universe to just, and then, explosion. 20 years later in China, 500 people are now laughing and throwing love notes and paper airplanes to each other, you know. And it just shows, I think, to really, we are always planting seeds. We are always planting seeds. And when we plant seeds of love and kindness and caring, it might seem like a little tiny thing at the time, but it never is. You don't know how that's going to amplify, how that's going to grow. So it's so important, I think, for us to realize there are no small actions. Everything we do is significant. How we do everything is significant. If we want to be loved, we think we don't have enough love in our life, we can hang up the dish towel with love. Love the dish towel and you will be loved. Love the bed when you make it and you'll be loved. So one of the things, whatever we do, we can do with love. Whatever we do, we can do with kindness and with caring and with tenderness. And think of others. Think of future generations. Think of animals. Think of other people. And do the best that we can so that from our field of creativity, we're sending out ripples into the infinite web of relations of kindness and caring, and it will come back. Don't worry, it'll come back. If we want to be abundant, the best way is to be generous, be givers, and be giving. And we can do that with our time, with our talents, obviously with our treasures, but with every gesture that we make, we are planting seeds. And I think this is where we connect with our inner genius, because each one of us is a unique expression. These are the two great powers in our world today. One of the great powers is the power of us as individuals, which is the power each one of us has to transform our lives and to bring our life into alignment with our values and to live more deeply from our true nature by quieting our mind and connecting with our inner wisdom. And then the other great power is community. And this is a two-edged one, because, you know, the community can wound us. All of us in many ways have been wounded by people, maybe very often even well-meaning people. We've been wounded, and when we go out into the world, very often we run into difficult situations and relationships with other human beings. But also, we can create communities of joy and liberation and freedom. And this is an enormous power that we have, to create communities together. We can do things that we cannot do alone. I love, like, we have this, a new book actually called Your Inner Islands, The Keys to Intuitive Living. It's actually based on my PhD dissertation at Berkeley, which was on developing intuition. You would not want to read that. It was a very dry academic dissertation, but it was actually nominated as the best dissertation at Berkeley that year. But we made it into a much more interesting book, journey. And in that book, there's a a little metaphor about the piano, which I'll just share with you now briefly, which is that when we look at the piano, we see there's 88 keys there, and we know that each individual key is by itself is relatively weak, right? It doesn't have a lot of power. If I just keep playing, like say a B flat note all the time, you'd say, okay, you can stop now. It's not that interesting. But the thing to understand is that if I'm playing the piano, or someone's playing the piano, and we're listening to this music unfolding, suddenly that B flat can just touch us so deeply. Oh my gosh, that beautiful note. What gives that note so much power? That individual note so much power? It's really these two things, like I just said. It's that individual note is true to itself. If that little note, when it was a baby note, had been told when it was a baby note, actually, B flats don't really get anywhere in the world. You should be an A or an A flat or C, but don't be a B flat. Nobody's going to want to play you if you're a B flat. Nobody plays the B flat. So the B flat so then the B flat's gone. So then when the pianist tries to play, it's not there. So it's so important for us as individual notes to discover our own note and sing it out, right? Or play it out, dance it out. But the other thing, the power, is that the power of that note comes from all the other notes that are true to themselves. Then it has so much more power. So I think this is the thing about community. It's when we realize that the power that we have as individuals really comes from supporting and creating communities of kindness. In the Buddhist tradition, for example, there's the 3 jewels. And you've probably heard of the 3 jewels. The 3 jewels are like the 3 foundational most important things. The Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Buddha is our own Buddha nature, our own enlightened awareness. That's the foundation of everything. The fact is that we are all basically free and awake. It's just been covered over. That's our true nature. That's the Buddha nature that lives within all of us. The Dharma is the teachings, right? The teachings that help us to awaken our true nature. This is so precious that each generation transmits the teachings from generation to the next generation. If not, it won't go on. So this is really critically important. And then the 3rd jewel is the Sangha. Does anyone know what the Sangha is? It's the community, right? And the Buddhists is the community of people who have come together to try to live the teachings, the Dharma, and to awaken the Buddha nature, to awaken their true nature. That's the Sangha. And the Buddha said, without the Sangha, there's no Buddha and there's no Dharma. So the Sangha, in a sense, is the most important of all of the jewels. It's the community. And I think this is so important to remember that each one of us, we leave here and we go into our daily lives, and that's where we have the power of our practice as individuals and in relationship. But we can come here on Sunday, and we can come here at other times to this community and contribute to this community. And I think there's no greater gift in many ways we can give to the world than to help create communities where the teachings are nourished and cultivated, that encourage us to question the toxic narrative of our world. It's based on delusion and exploitation and oppression and domination of others, and to remember the truth that we are, of the ancient wisdom tradition, that we're all expressions of love and peace and joy and freedom and infinite creativity, and that our life is just so precious because it's transitory in a sense. Even though we're eternal, this life is transitory. And that's why we love flowers, because they express the beauty of the infinite creator, and they're not made out of just plastic. They're forever. They're actually just here for a little while. And I think we all know that in our bones, that our lives have beauty and poignancy and meaning because we just have some precious days here on this earth, and it goes by so quickly. That's one of the things I realized. One of the things that was kind of funny for me in a way was when I was a younger guy. I was I think in my early to mid-20s. I took a class in Chinese, actually, in Oakland, California, through the community college. And I remember the Chinese teacher said, if you ever go to China, you can't, if you try to tell the people anything, like you're an authority about something, and you're not at least 60 years old, they'll just laugh at you. You don't know anything until you're 60, if you're in China, because China is a society that honors the elders. So you have to be at least 60 to otherwise you're just wet behind the ears. You don't really know anything. You think you do, but you don't. And so it was so neat when I went to, and I remember it was funny because when I was that age, I thought 60. God, that's never going to happen to me. I mean, I'm never going to get that old. I mean, that's ridiculous. That'll never happen. That's too far away to even think about. And so when we went recently to China, it was like I could sit up in front of everybody and say, now you have to listen to me because I am 60 years old. And they understood what I meant. But the point is, it went by like a flash. You know, I read the other day they talked to the oldest living human being, apparently, one of the oldest or the oldest woman. She's like 118 years old. And they said, what's it like being 118 years old? She said, it sure went by awful fast. You know, it goes by so quickly. So every day is a precious opportunity that we have to grow and to learn and to share and to connect with something beyond the shallow surface, the deeper connection with our true nature, and to help bring this, to help to feed the Sangha, the Dharma, our own true nature, to question the delusion of separateness, and to realize that all of us, it's true, all of us are going to be at that point where we leave our body and say goodbye, and we will look back on our life and we will feel a sense of gratitude and happiness that during our time here, we were able to contribute and be part of the solution to the problems here, rather than just being part of the problem. We were able to be part of the solution, be able to raise awareness, to be loving, especially to those who are vulnerable and who have no voice. And I think as we do that, we create a field that we can bring into the future, and we open up a doorway, actually, a beautiful doorway that leads to a path that has another doorway. And that doorway is a positive future that is beckoning to us and that is absolutely available. Somehow we have this idea, I think, that there's something wrong with the earth. There's not enough food to go around, or there's not enough houses for everybody. I mean, this is all lies. We know we can feed everyone on a fraction of the land. We can house everyone. There's plenty for everyone. This earth is not only beautiful, as you've all noticed, it's abundant. It's enormously abundant. So the whole idea is to question the official stories of lack and question the practices that cause so much violence and suffering to animals and hungry people, and to eat more and live more a life of kindness and caring. And I think when we do that, we create the foundation of a world where peace and freedom and justice and equality and sustainability are possible, and it just starts with us. Each one of us. It's not about trying to change somebody else. Change the one person I can change, which is me. And when we do that, then I think we create a field around us of liberation, and that helps liberate everyone. So I want to, again, thank all of you, because, as I said, I know if you found your way through the door, you're already making an effort, a very serious effort, which is beautiful, to question the official stories that in many ways have been injected into us by the corporations and the government and the education and the religion, not this religion, but the other religions, and to question all that, and to really honor the little spark, the little flame within that sees the beauty that is available and is possible, and sees that in others and in ourselves, and keep feeding that little flame and keep lighting each other's candles and spreading that flame and spreading that light. And as we do that together, we are definitely helping to transform our world in a positive way. So much love to you all. Thank you so much. Just to mention, we have this book, The World Peace Diet, which, as I said, has been translated, and then the new one, Your Inner Islands on Developing Intuition, and we have this brand new one that just came out like a couple of weeks ago called Bursting Light, which is, it's so hard for me to, maybe you can show. I have to hold the microphone. But this has got sheet music for many pieces of music that I've played, and also 25 paintings by Madeleine. So if you can read music and you want to play what I'm playing, you can just buy the book. People have asked us to do that for like 25 years, and I finally did it. We have sheet music to 15 pieces. So I'll play, that was Benediction of Light. I'll just close with a final piece of music, and this is a piece called Dance for the Arctic Moon. I mentioned the moon earlier, and this is also actually in the book. The moon represents spiritual enlightenment or awakening, typically cross-culturally, and the Arctic which is the north of the four directions. The direction of the north in many indigenous traditions represents the direction of going within, or turning our attention within and listening. So this is Dance for the Arctic Moon. Enjoy.